Today I'm going to talk to you about your last three graphs that you're going to learn how to graph this chapter. We have a square root, a cube root, and a cube graph. So first thing, we have a cube graph. So your basic equation y equals x cubed. You need to look at the exponent to determine what the graph looks like. Because remember, x squared is a parabola. Now we have x cubed is this graph. Important information you need to get down. Your parent points. -1, -1, 0, 0, 1, 1. What parent points are is where your basic graph starts. The really one that you need to pay attention to is the 0, 0. So your graph starts at the origin, and then that's the point that we're going to move. That's basically our vertex. Next graph is your square root. So it starts at the origin and then curves up. It's basically half of a parabola. The parent points you need to know for that one are 0, 0, and 1, 1. Again, the point at 0, 0 is basically your vertex. That's the one that you need to move. And then I'll talk to you how to graph this in a minute. Last one is a cube root. Your parent points on this one are the same as a cubic, where it's -1, -1, 0, 0, and 1, 1. But in this case, we connect it with what we call an S curve. So where your cubic was going down and then curving this direction, pointing up, your cube root is going the opposite direction and making an S. So what you need to remember, these are graphed very similar to your parabola, except for going up and over in each direction. You're going to count it like a line, where it goes up and over or down and over on your slope. So the first thing that you need to remember, when we did a vertex, you had HK, but remember you have to change the sign of whatever that H is. So when we talk about how a graph moves, your H is your left and right because that's your X value on your vertex. But remember, it goes opposite, so if it's positive it goes left, if it's negative it goes right, and then your H goes up and down. The negative sign or whatever is in front of your parentheses or your root is going to be your slope. So if it's negative, it flips down. If it's positive, it flips up. So you're going to pull out the same information as you did before. Instead of calling it a vertex, we're going to call it a starting point. And we're still going to have a slope. And that's still the main information you're going to pull out of this. Just like with a parabola, this is your parentheses. But because I have a square root, that tells me where what my graph looks like. So that was the graph where we had a starting point, and it kind of was half of a parabola. It's going to go up and then point in one direction. Your starting point in here is going to be just like our vertex. So we have to change the sign of the 6, and we're going to start at the point 6, 5. Your slope then is the number that is in front of your square root. So in this case, since we don't see one, your slope is going to be 1. So what I do is I start by graphing the vertex, or the starting point, at 6, 5. So over 6, up 5. And then I want to count my slope in the correct direction to make this. So my slope is up 1, right 1. I'm not going to connect it with a line. We're going to connect it with the curve that just kind of goes up in this direction. And that's the graph of this function. The thing about this assignment is you're going to have to learn how to connect your points. Your dots are going to be graphed all the same way, but you have to make sure you connect them with the correct curve. The next one we have here is f of x equals negative cube root of x plus 2 plus 1. Again, our information is the starting point and the slope. So your starting point here, again, whatever number is in the parentheses, we have to change the sign. In this case, it's not parentheses, it is a cube root, but it's still inside. That turns into a -2 and then a 1. And then our slope out here, since we have a negative, is going to be a -1. You need to go back and look, well, what does the graph of a cube root look like? Well, the cube root is normally an S curve, where we had that point at 0, 0, 1, 1, and -1, -1. So that 0, 0 is now what my starting point is. So -2, +1. Because I have a negative slope, you're going to see that this thing points in the opposite direction. So just like a line, I would go down 1, right 1, up 1, left 1. So again, you will count that slope just like you would a line. at your starting point, down one, right one, up one, left one. But you're never going to count your slope more than just those 2 times. Then because it's an S curve, I know I can't start at the bottom here and go up. I see that my S is going to be up on this side and down on that side. And there's the graph of my cubic function. Big things you just have to keep straight. From what equation, what curve are you going to have?